The Call continues from generation to generation with Don Gessner from Gessner Ministries, a podcast dedicated to exploring the uniqueness of a person's call to ministry.
It's great to see you, Steve. Thanks so much for agreeing to do this episode with me. I've been talking about the call in these episodes, and the call for me is a very important piece of my ministry life. I remember, it's almost now close to 50 years, and I just know how important that call has been to me down through the years, and I'm reminded of the scripture that talks about that. He gave some to be apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and some teachers. And so I've been having a really great time hearing personal stories about people in ministry and how they received their call. So, but before I do that, Steve, I just want to give a little bit of background. I think the first time that we connected was in 2001 when Cheryl and I moved to Indianapolis, and we were part of the Indianapolis district, and you were pastoring at that time on the district. And from that time until now, we have been friends, and you have really been a great friend. I remember when I went through some challenging moments in our ministry years, and you were always there. You would take time to call and check in, and that's been special to me, and I really appreciate that. But today, I wanted to explore with you about your call. So, take it away. Tell me a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, wow. Don, you're very special to Regina and I as well. And we love you and Cheryl and your family. What a blessing you've been to our life. But, my call, it really wasn't what you might expect. But it'd give you insight into how I think God works in ways that we just can't orchestrate. I was 15 years old. I was a pastor's kid who had been raised in church my entire life. So I knew all the Bible stories. I could quote the right verses. I understood the vocabulary, and but knowing about God and actually encountering Him are two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
In that time in my life, I was much more interested in sports than spiritual things. Baseball was probably my best sport, but basketball was my favorite. But nonetheless, I was an athlete through and through. Academically, let's just say that I was an average student on my best day because my priorities were pretty clear. Sports, friends, and at that particular time in my life, as it was with most boys, girls. And I had a date with one of the prettiest girls I thought in the school at that time. And we had plans for Friday night. I was excited about it. But my mom gave me an ultimatum because we were in revival that week. And she said, either bring her to church or cancel the date.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So now understand what that meant. This wasn't Sunday morning. This was Friday night, and that was the social currency of high school. And I had to choose between impressing this girl and church. And for a teenager, that wasn't really a small ask. So I just canceled the date. And I can't tell you really why I made that choice. Maybe it was respect for my mom. Maybe it was something deeper that was stirring that I just couldn't articulate at the time.
Sure.
But I went to church that Friday night. If I remember correctly, very frustrated, very angry, definitely not expecting anything life-changing to happen. And that night, God met me. And I was saved. I was surrendered. I surrendered His call. And I was called to preach all in
Wow.
one evening.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
it wasn't,
awesome.
yeah, it wasn't three separate experiences that were spread out over the years.
Sure.
But it was this overwhelming, undeniable encounter with God where just everything shifted all at once. And and here's what's remarkable, I think, about that. I had been raised in church, and I wasn't some prodigal that was coming home. I knew what salvation meant. I understood what the surrendered life looked like. I watched my dad preach my entire life. I don't know if I told you that, but I was a PK. And so I did. I had a clue what a call to ministry entailed. But knowing about it and experiencing it were two completely different things. And so that Friday night, uh, I think God took all that head knowledge, all those years of church attendance and Sunday school and vacation Bible school and all that theological vocabulary that I had absorbed across the years, and He made it real. He made it mine.
Yes, yes.
It wasn't my parents anymore. It was personal. It was an unshakable encounter with a living God, and I think here's what I want your listeners to hear: that I didn't manufacture that moment. I didn't
Exactly.
even I didn't really even want it. I didn't even want to be there that night.
Uh-huh.
I'd have rather been on a date, but God, in His sovereignty and in His grace, He orchestrated those circumstances, including a mom who loved me enough to make the hard parenting call
Yeah.
that put me in the place where God could reach me.
Yeah.
And so that call that I received 15 years ago, or at the age of 15 years, I'm sorry, I'm getting old now. I'm almost 60, so that had been a long time ago. But at the age of 15, I received that call. It's been the anchor of my life.
Yeah.
When ministry's gotten hard, man, and it has gotten hard, I've come back to that Friday night. I even went back several years ago and went to the actual place.
Oh, wow.
And I'd been pastoring for about 3 decades at the time, and I just had a good talk with the Lord, and just uh, you know, it, I just told him, I said, God, it's you that called me, this 15-year-old wannabe pitcher who was an average student on his best day. So I realized that God's call wasn't based on my qualifications. It was based on His purposes. It was based on His faithfulness. It was based on His grace. And that's what the call does.
Yeah,
That's what the call does.
and I couldn't help but think while you were sharing that, because one of the things that I was about to ask you is, with that moment when you really experienced this, it seems to me that you would look back many times through the years, and that special moment that it was just serves as a bit of an anchor to you. And like you said, especially when times are tough and
Yeah.
we're going through things, because anybody who's in ministry very long are going to face challenges. And the call is such a critical piece to helping us be stabilized, I believe, in ministry.
Yeah.
Steve, I know you pastored for, a number of years, but not very long ago, you became a district superintendent in Georgia for the Church of the Nazarene. And I just imagine now that you're a district superintendent and, finding pastors for your churches, it seems to me the importance of the call, once again, is a priority, especially with having to locate pastors for churches, because the call is much more than just a career choice. So I imagine that the call is an important piece to what you do now.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. And when I'm talking to pastors, and you always ask that question, tell me about your call to ministry. And a lot of times, what I hear is what they're going to do, or where they want to do it, or even how they're going to structure what they're going to do. And those questions matter. The what, the where, and the how.
Sure.
They all matter, but I think they're secondary, because I think the primary question is, why has God called you into this?
Ah,
And here's what I mean by that. I think most young people, when they enter into ministry, um, they they have a job description in mind. I want to be a youth pastor, or I feel called to church planting, or I want to preach, and 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 that's a great starting point, but I think it's dangerously incomplete because when when that youth ministry implodes, as you shared earlier there, Don, when the struggles get real
Yeah,
and the church plant doesn't gain traction, or when your preaching falls flat, and trust me, all of those things are going to happen at some point.
absolutely.
The what, the how, the where, they're not going to sustain you in those moments. It's your why. Your why is your anchor. It's the deep conviction about what God is doing in and through you that I think just transcends specific roles or outcomes. It's the answer to questions like, why am I doing this instead of selling cars? And believe me, I've asked that question a few times. What
Sure.
yeah, what is God forming in you through ministry that just couldn't happen any other way? What burden has God placed on your heart that you just can't shake? How does your calling connect to God's larger redemptive purposes?
Yeah.
And those are the questions that I'm looking for. And I know you mentioned that I just became DS. It seems like it was 10 years ago, but it was 10 months ago.
Yeah.
And the framework for us here in Georgia is from what we call our resurgence work. We just had the resurgence uh, conference here in this very room, which is my third car garage, my office, and we did it online. We had Carla Sundberg and David Anderson and Stan Reeder, who's the USA Canada Regional Director,
Yes.
just wonderful people that were just
Oh,
talking
yes.
about the framework for resurgence. And it took me back to my why for ministry. And it all starts with helping people know Jesus. That's where it all begins,
Yeah.
is there. And I'm not a head knowledge, but truly knowing him, not getting introduced to him, but walking with him.
Yeah.
And then it leads to entire sanctification. Of course, if you're Nazarene, and maybe not all your listeners are Nazarene, but I love what Ray Dunning said about entire sanctification in his theology book called Systematic Theology, called Grace, Faith, and Holiness. He talked about entire sanctification as four freedoms: being free from self, free from the world, free for God, free for others. And to help people overcome, once they come to know Jesus, they still have the baggage of their past, addictions and pain and struggles and so on, that they need to be set free from, and then ultimately free for God and free to serve others. And then that third one we call discover your why.
Oh, yeah.
And it's their call to ministry. So really, my call to ministry, the why, is to help others discover their why
Yes.
for ministry.
Yes.
And so every strategy flows from those four commitments. And we just want people to be clear on
Yeah.
their why, because if we're not, man, we're going to chase every new method, every trend, or every program that comes down the pipeline.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't be more correct, Steve. I just think that outside of the call, we're just going to be looking for the next best thing and then the next thing because we are just empty without having that stabilizing force that we experience with the call. And so
Yeah.
I really appreciate, Steve, that you took the time today to just share basically your testimony and the call that you received. And my hope is that by sharing these testimonies about the call, that it really be something that would inspire people to make certain when they're interested in ministry that it's more than a career choice, but this has to be something that really happens deep within the soul of that person. And what you shared today is very inspiring, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And I hope that we can get together soon again. We haven't seen each other for a while, and I know that sometimes we've had times together on the golf course. That's always been good. How is your golf game going these days?
Horrible. Horrible. I don't play very often, and I certainly lost my why in that one, in that game. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I was a little frustrated. Yes, it was terrible, but
Oh, wow.
nonetheless, yeah.
Well, listen, anyway, beautiful testimony. I appreciate you sharing, and God bless you and Regina in your new role as the district superintendent. And I know that God is using you in a powerful way. So great
Oh,
to see you.
thank you, my brother. I appreciate you, Don. God bless you.
I hope the stories of the call to ministry will inspire you. Please take a moment to like and hit the share button as we prepare for the next episode.